always have it coming, like animals who like to bite, tasting all disaster. 20-something seconds go on and on. 20-something seconds go. I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. I know we can do better. I'm not ready for darkness. If we promise to hold on and to never let go, I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. Hey, 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 hey. I'm ready to absorb you, feeding all your triggered lies. My ignorance defines you. The roof is gonna cave in, roaring with some dinosaurs, so caught up in the moment. 20-something seconds go on and on. 20-something seconds go. I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. I know we can do better. I'm not ready for darkness. If we promise to hold on and to never let go, I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. Hey, 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 if we promise to hold on and to never let go, I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for. I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. I know we can do better. I'm not ready for darkness. If we promise to hold on and to never let go, I'm not ready for darkness. I'm not ready for darkness. Hey, 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 hey,
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away. This is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with me. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Yo, what is up, everyone?
Good morning, everybody.
Matthew, good to see you as always, sir.
It is good to see you too. And I just remembered that I need to close out the actual live stream so that I'm not getting you once and then again 3 minutes, 3 seconds later.
So. Or mute the tab. Either way. Either way works. So
either way works. I have the chat. I have you. I have the audio. Life is good.
You have me. That's all you need.
Aww. All you need is cute guy. Yo, 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 yo.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know we had we had a snafu, and then we were out for a couple weeks for family reasons, and so great to be back. I saw some comments about people were going through withdrawals, as was I. So happy everyone can make it. Patrick's not here, so curses on him. That's okay. All right.
I am grateful that Patrick has taken some time, because it's always a joy to join both you, Adam, and the community as well. Yeah.
Excellent. He did need a little break. Also, he was going a little nuts.
It's been an interesting and busy year.
Yes, it has. All right, so if you are not familiar with Sir Matthew Roche, he is a program manager on the Power BI product team, or the CAT team, the customer advisory team. You can also check out his blog over at ssbipolar.com. Also, he's got a great YouTube channel with some great videos, very thought-provoking, so definitely go check it out. Anything else you would like to add to that, Matthew?
No, I just I appreciate the call out and the shout out for the blog and the YouTube. I am not the super productive, super consistent contributor that Adam and Patrick is. Adam is laughing at the understatement here, but I do believe that a lot of the content that I put out touches on important topics for both Power BI, technology, and people in general that a lot of the other blogs that are out there do not touch on. So definitely check it out. Try to have at least a blog post a month, and I may have a new YouTube video later this year.
Ooh, later this year. Well, that's pretty wide open. So, all right.
Setting my bar high.
There it is. There it is. I'll ask you again the last week of December if we're going to get it.
Oh, that's unnecessarily harsh.
No, I'm sure you'll get a couple in before then.
It does seem likely.
Yes. All right. If you are new to Guy in a Cube or just new to the live stream in general, put hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing the new faces and just seeing what's going on in the world. I do know that there are, so for any folks in India, just shout out to all of you and just best wishes, as I know the COVID stuff has been a mess over there. So hopefully everyone is healthy and well. Also, if you happen to be in Israel right now, so just thoughts are with everyone there, or in the Middle East in general. I know it's a mess over there right now, so just hoping everyone is safe and well with their families. So hashtag new. We got Jocelyn, we got Pooja, we got David. What else we got? We've got a name I can't pronounce, so welcome. So yeah, all right. Inside Your Shelter is new. Yes, AMR or Palestine. Anyone over in the Middle East right now, just wishing everyone to be safe and healthy. Fernando is new. I didn't think you were new, Fernando. Unless there's multiple Fernandos and I'm not catching that. NY1 million, Bill's new. Awesome. And Klaus. Wow, thank you for upgrading to Cube Producer. Very much appreciated there. All right. The not new. Yes. Oh, Laura, good call out. Good call out. Good call out. I did miss that. I saw it as my eyes. It was small on my camera. So. Sorry. All right. And then so Klaus just upgraded to Cube Producer. Just a good chance to say thank you to all of the members of Guy in a Cube. Very much appreciated. All of you help us do what we do. So it is very much appreciated. So thank you for that. If you see folks with the green name tag or like the cube next to their names, those are all members of Guy in a Cube. So you can check it out on the link on the item, or there's like a join button down below. No commitment required. You can just learn more about it if you're interested. And if so, Thank you so much. All right, questions. We're going to get into the questions. So please put a Q colon in front of those questions, and Chatmaster C is standing by, ready to get those queued up. Please only submit it one time. Otherwise, we have a 3 strikes rule here on Guy in a Cube. So if you spam your question, or just spamming in general, we'll get you into a timeout, and we don't want that. All the moderators are there. They have the power to put you in a timeout, Chatmaster C as well. Technically I do, but so much is going on that I've only done it once. So please, just one time, we'll get it queued up. We get to as many as we can. And then we never get to all of them. So at the bottom of the hour, or the top of the hour, if you're in India, we will cut over to the member only chat where everyone can watch, but only members and moderators can participate in the chat. So members, hold your questions until Chatmaster C gives you the go, and then we'll get those going. All right. One other real quick shout out I want to give, Workout Wednesday. If you haven't heard about it, check it out. It's a great way to just stretch your knowledge. And this month, I believe, is focused on DAX. And so these are just community challenges that a lot of people participate in. Definitely build your skills, have great discussions with other folks. Also, shout out to the Saturday morning learning crew. Also, I don't know if those folks are working on those items as well, but just lots of opportunities in the community to participate, learn, grow, and make connections with other folks that are like-minded and trying to do stuff. So definitely go check it out.
And it's worth mentioning as well. I saw a bunch of questions coming in about chat, about learning and choosing a career in chat, and comments about, like, I hope to one day be an expert like Adam or Patrick.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from just on an ongoing day-to-day basis. Keep your hands dirty when there's a challenge, when you see a new technique in a blog post, when you think of, wouldn't it be interesting to answer this question because I saw something in the news, or there's some source of information that shows up in your day-to-day life. Remain curious and act on that curiosity, and things like that, the Wednesday workout or other community challenges. This is how you become the expert, because you're doing, you're learning, you're paying attention, you're remaining engaged.
Yes. Well said. Well said. Thoroughly agree. All right. Matthew, are you ready?
I am never ready. Let's go.
All right. Let's do it. All right. Matthias. Matthias is an early riser and gets the questions in early. All right. Can you please elaborate on how virtual tables in DAX can be a blessing or a curse? Maybe with an example. It depends.
They're a blessing when someone else uses them, and a curse when you do.
So and there was some clarification in the chat before kind of everyone jumped in, and this was specific to using it as part of a measure, and so not necessarily building a calculated table. And so when doing it in a measure, just understand that we have to materialize the data that you're pulling, and so depending on what you're doing, that's going to take up memory, and also it could potentially slow down the actual query response time as well. So it can impact performance, it can impact memory. It is a tool in your tool belt. So yes, there are reasons to do it. One example I will give you was a customer example I worked on a long time ago. I've said it before in different places, but the customer had a Power BI desktop file. It was 1.3 gig on disk, and they were on a premium P1 and complaining that they were getting out of memory errors, which it supports up to 25 gig of memory. And they only had this one model. And when I looked at it on Power BI Desktop on my laptops have about 64 gig of memory on them. Well, it has 64 gigs of memory. And I just opened up the desktop file, and by default, I'm watching in Task Manager, and it leveled out at about 30 gig of memory. I haven't done anything. I just opened the report on the default page. I went to page 3, changed the slicer, and then it did a lot of work, and then it leveled out again at 48 gig of memory. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And going through their model, I saw a lot of that where they're just building out these massive tables as part of measures in and out. And there were some other things as well, but I mean, it just bloated the model so much in memory that it caused, and also it was slow. Their model was very slow. So just be mindful of it. The things I would also say is make sure you're using tools like DAX Studio, like server timings, things of that nature. Get your baselines for performance and try tweaking things. Another aspect of this as well. Yes, Alex, we sold them a P3. Another aspect of this as well, Matthew and I were talking about this earlier, is sometimes when we see this being done, is sometimes an indication that you're trying to put a Band-Aid on the underlying problem of your item. So using Guy in a Cube speak, chances are you may have an ugly baby. And you didn't take time to actually put in the effort to get that good star schema or the good model. And as a result of your ugly baby, you're trying to patch it with, a virtual table of some kind. I'm not saying that's the case for all the cases, but usually when we get the calls in our day job and we're looking at that, it's because of that. So just be mindful of that as well, that make sure your underlying model is in a good spot. Keep it clean, keep it simple. That reduces the complexity from a DAX perspective. So
yeah, and just as a general guidance, anytime that you find yourself looking at something that is really complex like this, ask yourself if you're doing the heavy lifting in your measures because the model isn't in the state to enable a simpler, better performing approach. And it's not always easy. It's not always easier to go back to update a model because there's more dependencies. But very often, rather than putting those Band-Aids on, addressing the underlying structural problem is the long-term fix rather than the incremental patch.
Yeah, and also like typically what I see too is people are like, well, I'll just put this in here temporarily. I'll go back and fix it. And that never happens. Like you're in an emergency, in a crisis, and you're trying to get it fixed, which I get it. Like especially if it's production, we got to get it up and running. But once the emergency's gone, the pressure's gone, nobody goes back, and nobody. Yeah. So, all right, that was a super long answer, but that was a good discussion. I liked it. And then Arunesh, thank you for becoming a member. Very much appreciated. And Ben, hey, upgraded to producer. Thank you so much, Ben. Ben's a good guy. I like Ben. I like everyone, but thank you. I gotta be careful about that. Also, I did notice, Matthew, and I'm very I because of the snafu that happened on our last live stream, I've been hyper paranoid about like what's gonna go wrong. I figured out what it was. I forgot to change my headset, so that's the snafu for today. I will take that.
Okay. I have a $30 YouTube earpiece, Bluetooth earpiece, and a $50 boom mic. So I think that my audio setup may not be the same as yours.
I have a $12 transparent headphone that I normally use during the live stream, and I forgot to switch it out. So, all right.
I'm used to seeing you with the big things every day.
Yeah, during work, during the day, like this is just what I wear because it's more comfortable. And better sound quality. So, all right, here we go. Surya, is there a way to refresh a single table in Power BI service data set? Is that possible? It depends. Yes. Actually, the answer is yes, but it does depend. So do you have premium? If the answer to that question is yes, then my answer to your question is yes. If you don't have premium, then my answer is no. So go ahead, Matthew.
So specifically, dataset refresh in Power BI, it is dataset refresh. So you schedule the refresh for the dataset. That's how Power BI works. But every dataset is an analysis services tabular model. And if you're using Power BI Premium, the XMLA endpoint, this programmatic API endpoint for your data sets in Premium is available for you to use. Basically, for Premium, you have more control, you have more access because the data set is hosted in a workspace on Premium. And through that XMLA endpoint, you have a lot more granular control, both for refreshing specific parts of the data set and for additional incremental load scenarios beyond the date-based incremental refresh that Power BI supports through the UI. So there we go. No more beating around the bush. No more it depends. This is what
Yes.
it depends on.
Yes.
Next question.
I loved Avenger Nerd Dad, and I'm still going to call you Avenger Nerd Dad. His comments, just open the desktop file, right click on the single table, refresh, and republish. Like, bam, there you go.
Wow, that does work.
Yeah. Yeah. Except if you have like a large model using like incremental refresh, like that doesn't work.
Oh yeah, no, you wouldn't want to do it.
That won't get you very far.
And it's also worth mentioning with premium per user, what we just said about the XML endpoint is true for premium per user as well as premium per capacity.
Correct. Absolutely correct. All right. Where are we? There we are. Next one. Prabhav. Let's see. How or when can we query folding when sourcing a data set from Dataflows? Incremental refresh doesn't work as intended when the source is Dataflows. Oh man, that sounds like a Matthew question.
Hey Alex, can you find my Will It Fold blog post? So for Pravav, and apologies for mangling your name. The short answer is most scenarios when you're querying against a Power BI data flow as your source, query foldering does not work. So incremental refresh actually can make things slower rather than making it faster. This is a known limitation today that the Power BI team is aware of. I have a blog post that hopefully Alex, there we go. The other Alex put it in there. So Alex dropped a link to that blog post into chat. In that, I talk about some of the underlying details and the scenarios that do work and the scenarios that don't work for query folding. I can't tell you off the top of my head because I blogged it so that I could go look it up and remember it myself. But take a look at that blog post and be aware it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that today there are a lot of scenarios that I would expect to work for query folding against a data flow that do not work today.
Love it. And I also appreciate that Matthew's brain is also like mine, where it is direct query and not import.
Yes.
So
I have a composite model with is it hybrid tables? Is that what we announced at MBAS?
Yeah, that's coming. And if we didn't, well, it's out there. Yeah, no, it was announced.
Whoops. There's one MVP who I will not name, where on 3 separate occasions I've seen him tweet something about a new capability that I've been watching for weeks or months. It's like, yes, it's out there, and I retweet it and make a big deal about it. And then someone from the marketing team comes and stomps on me in Teams chat. It's like, you need to take that down because that's not announced yet. That's still under NDA. It's like, God. And hopefully this wasn't one of those things.
That's funny. I'm pretty sure we announced it.
I think we did.
Okay.
And if we didn't, we did.
We'll find out on Monday.
You'll find out.
You're going to be on vacation, so
Outlook.
You may not have to come back.
Ooh.
Ooh. I don't.
It would be awkward.
Nah, you get it. It's fine. All right. Gustavo, I have a data flow from MySQL with 30 million rows. Wow. Its refresh is 4 hours. If I turn incremental refresh on, never ends. Any suggestions?
I would say, and keep in mind, I don't know what monitoring tools MySQL provides. If this were a SQL Server or Azure SQL database, I would say use SQL Profiler or a similar tool to see what queries are being sent against the source. I am 99% certain that the underlying problem is that the query that you've built for your data flow is not folding correctly against the source. And instead of running the query once for a full refresh, which takes 4 hours, you're running the query for every single partition based on your incremental refresh rules. So it's taking 4 hours times whatever that number is. And so look in whatever tools MySQL gives you as an admin to see what the queries are. And B, use the folding indicators in Power Query Online. This is a relatively recent addition, but basically they've updated Power Query Online to provide more insight into whether or not a given step in your query is likely to fold. Use that and see if there is an opportunity for you to update the M query to take advantage of folding to actually get the benefit that you need from that incremental refresh.
Yes. Love it.
Boy, keep the easy questions coming.
I know. All right, Sandeep. Although we just jinxed it, right? Is it advisable to create generic model using import method and use as a source for multiple reports as direct query? My major concern is size of such model, or should we create models per report? The default answer is going to be it depends. I don't understand the direct query piece specifically, unless you're referring to direct query over Power BI datasets in the composite model approach. Otherwise, it's just a live connection to the shared dataset. And so I'll give my piece, and then I'll let Matthew give his piece as well. There are reasons for going either direction. The one giant model could potentially either route could have complexities in maintenance and just usability. And so the large model, as you call out, size is a factor. How much does that data even relate to each other? The data source that you're going off of, all of those things are factors. But having that single model, if you can fit it into a single model, gives you some flexibility for other reports and other scenarios so that you're not having to duplicate that data, right? But if it is not manageable in that sense, in a realistic way, another approach is to create data sets or models that are specific to the problem that they're trying to solve. And that are part of that scenario. And then you can potentially expose, use that composite modeling approach with direct query over Power BI datasets to potentially interact with data that makes sense, assuming that performance is still acceptable in what you're doing. Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Matthew?
So first of all, agree with everything that you said. And I love the fact that in Sandeep's question, he calls out, my major concern is the size of such a model. Mm-hmm. So if the multiple reports that are in your scenario are all based on a common data or business domain, like they're all finance reports or they're all HR reports, or the underlying data is actually related, leaning towards a single model that has the data that the multiple reports need, that makes a ton of sense. So that's the direction that I would lean in. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to do anything with direct query. Yeah. Basically, you can have one data set, and as a shared data set, you can build all of your reports on it. And after you've built that one central data set, if there are reports that need incremental data from other sources, like they need to pull in another column or two from a different database or a SharePoint list or whatever is not included in that model, this is where the direct query can come in, because you can have the central model where all of the data and all of the measures are defined, and then add just the little bits that a specific report needs. Yep. But definitely, keep in mind all of the things that Adam mentioned as you're looking at that as an approach.
Yes. It depends. All right. Evan, can you show an example of proper usage of variables with iterators? Ooh, off the cuff. I recently learned variables don't iterate. Yeah, I had fun with that. And it forced me to break up my DAX into multiple measures for readability. Not nice. Interesting. So I don't know specifically what you were actually trying to do. The case where I hit that was where we were using a variable inside of the filter function. So we had calculate and then a filter function, and the variable was inside of that. I had a little tweet exchange on that. I don't have it offhand right now to bring up, so apologies for that. but it was causing callbacks to occur with inside of the from a storage engine perspective into the formula engine, and so it was a potential performance issue as a result. So I don't know, like, is that I don't know if that's something that I'd love Marco's thoughts on this, but in terms of, it's just expected. I don't know of anything where that behavior is going to change. So it's just, something to be aware of, that if you are using variables with inside of an iterator, it can potentially cause some problems. So definitely be aware of it. And it sounds like you hit it pretty hard and it caused problems. So I love, what I love about this though, is that you were able to identify that and potentially come up with a workaround for it. So that part is awesome. I don't necessarily have a good, outside of coming up with creative workarounds to get around it, like there's not a great answer there. So just be aware of the behavior and address it accordingly. Anything to add there, Matthew?
Nope. I got nothing on Dax.
All right. Dax has nothing on you.
And so let me elaborate by saying, for all of the folks that are on the call that may not see Adam and I interact regularly, the people on the Power BI Cat team or product team or any group of so-called experts, everybody has their own areas of expertise and areas of ignorance or weakness. And even though people think of me as being someone who knows Power BI, I know less about DAX than 99% of the people that are on this stream every week watching. Just not my area, and it doesn't slow me down. So as you're looking at your own strengths and weaknesses, just be aware that the people that you see out with a voice in the community, they're coming from that same position. Yep.
And I will also freely admit, I do not know everything about Power BI. And I will freely admit when I don't know something. And I look at that as an opportunity to learn, if and when it's appropriate and I have time to do that. So yeah. All right. Where are we at? Bouchon. And I'm watching the clock here. We got 3 minutes until the cutover. We're getting there. Bouchon, I have 10 visuals in a report, and I want to generate 10 PNG images for each visual and save it in Word. So that is not something that's available in the product today.
Isn't there an export API that allows you to export individual visuals now? This isn't something that I pay a lot of attention to, but I'm pretty sure I saw an email about that a couple months ago.
That may be the case. I'm not remembering that that's not ringing a bell. One thing that I do know is that if you do export using the export API or just export in the Power BI service to PowerPoint, that actually exports images. So that's a way you could get the individual visual images. I don't know that the export to API can do individual visuals. Maybe it can. I don't know.
Hey, Alex.
Oh, hey, you were, yeah, Alex commented that yes, you can. All right, look at Matthew, man. That's awesome. All right, and yeah, so that's an option. So you can do that as images. So that's super cool. There you go. And then Power Automate it up, because there are items in Power Automate also that allow you to interact with that if you don't want to code, which is great. Excellent. Or you could just do the export to PowerPoint and copy and paste. That's always acceptable. All right, let's get one more. Here we go. Irananjan, so apologies for the name. Question, is there any possibility of refreshing tables in a data set on the Power BI service at different schedules? Yeah, so that goes back to the comment we had earlier, right? So with the if you do have it in premium, you could create a custom solution. The schedule refresh capabilities inside of Power BI are for a data set itself, and you can set that up at different times. But to refresh tables in a data set at different schedules, you'd have to write some custom solution that's going to do that via the XMLA endpoint.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And I know that there was at least one additional data flows question where someone had called things out for me early up. I don't know if this fits into Crystal's process at all, but Crystal, if you were to find the submitted relatively early data flows question that says, I have a question for Matthew, I'd love to take that before I
have one that says, hi, Matthew, I am stuck. Is that the one you're referring to?
I don't remember. It was minutes ago.
It is data flows related with a API and error.
This is the one. So thank you for that. So the short answer is you cannot have a dynamic data source in a data flow. It's just not a supported scenario. It is something that the data flows team is looking at enabling at some point in the future. So they know that this is a thing that would make data flows better. At this point, it's not funded. There is no ETA for when work might begin, much less be done. But understand that if you're trying to do something with dynamic data sources in Power Query Online, it's not going to work. That is a dead end. So again, it's not you. It's just not the way that data flows work.
It's not you. It's Matthew.
Hey.
All right. So Chatmaster C has cleared the chat, and I am kicking over to member only chat at this point. That should have worked. Did that? Well, there, it worked. Yay. So at this point, everyone can still watch, but only members and moderators can participate in the chat. Super chats always take priority. So be aware of that. So members, get your questions in here. One of the benefits of being a member is you can pre-submit questions. And we do have a few, so I will we'll roll into those first as members get their questions in. And also, please remember, we still go by the just Q colon and one time, and we'll get to it. Okay, so first question. Ooh, let me get rid of that. First question is from James. So I have a SQL query that returns a list of connection strings and table names from multiple data sources. I'd like to use the results of that query to load all the tables into the model at once. Is there a way to feed? I love Matthew's got a facial reaction that was appropriate.
But they can't see it.
They can't see that, but I can. That was hilarious. Is there a way to feed the query results into Power BI such that it iterates through the list dynamically, building M and so on and so forth? All right, Matthew, here you go. Get ready for the face. Yes. So please don't do that. Also, so one thing is that scares me on that. I'm going to use a phrase here: layers of wrongness. Where do I even begin? One immediate thing that comes to mind is your credentials. When you connect to different data sources, having those there and having to set those credentials becomes a challenge. In desktop, you could potentially do that, but when you get to the service, that would probably fail. But I also, you could, so technically you probably could take that data and use it as part of parameters and things of that nature and loop through things. It's super complicated. And I don't understand the scenario of why you are even wanting to go down that road. So I don't recommend it personally. It's probably fraught with performance issues, technical complexities, credential wonkiness, which is a technical term, and so many other items. So please just don't do that.
And so just, I'm going to riff on Adam's response to say, every time that I've done something like this in the past, and this is like pre-Power BI, this is like back in the ye old times, basically I had some like DBA task or similar situation where I just needed all of the data from a whole bunch of different sources in a place that I could look at. And the way that I solved it back in the day was I went into SQL Server Query Analyzer, which is what we called SQL Server Management Studio before it was Enterprise Manager.
I remember that.
And basically like built a whole bunch of select statements using the system tables, the information schema, and and then just ran those in different tabs. If that's the type of approach that you're looking for, and it's basically something quick and dirty and raw that you want the data so that you can quickly explore it, that may be the one safe place to do this thing, but understand that you're never going to be able to publish it into the service. It's only going to be in desktop. You're not going to be able to have any predictability or maintainability. So if you're planning on building something on this rather than having a throwaway utility that you're making for yourself, this is not a happy place. Layers and layers of wrongness.
Yes. Yes. All right. Good question, though. Next one that we've got is from Tom Gee. I'm trying to create a slicer to select the drill down level in a line and stack column chart. Instead of year, quarter, month on a shared access, which works but requires the end users to interact in a cumbersome way, I want to replace it with a dynamic value based on a slicer so the end user can just choose which time period they want from the slicer. Is that possible? I will add that it depends. But yes, I'm going to kick over to... I forgot to get this ready. I'm going to kick over to my machine here, and I put together a couple of approaches that could potentially be used. So let me get that up there. Good to go. All right. Enough all this talking. Let's do what? Head over to my machine. All right.
Hey.
What?
Are you trying to be Patrick? Or do you miss him that much?
I do.
I'm sitting right here.
I do. All right. So we've got three approaches here. The first approach that I'm going to show is using what I love, but bookmarks and buttons. And so for here, what I've actually got is three different visuals that are the same, but they're using different access items. So this one is using month. And then I have another visual that's using year and another visual that's using quarter. And then what I'm using is buttons, selections, and bookmarks to switch between those. So I'm on month currently. Now I'm on year. Now I'm on quarter, right? So you can give more of that app approach or app-like experience to do that. This is not as, from an end user approach, I think it works well. From a development approach or ability to implement, I think it's easy to accomplish. So this is a good way to do it. Approach number 2, this can be done in various ways. I just took one. Casper had a blog post on this, so I grabbed that. I'm not going to say that this is the best way to do it or the worst way to do it. It is a way to do it. And what this involves is actually pivoting the data out. So I actually pivoted the calendar table into a table that actually, not that one, into a table that's actually breaking out those items. So in this case, I've actually got, you can see here, so it's got the years, it's got the quarters, it's got the month, and all the values are there. And that is the switch that the slicer is going to use. And then I've got a measure that's building out that virtual table, which we talked about earlier, to do these items. You could also accomplish this from like a Power Query perspective as well, or even creating that switch table in the in the data source. But just know that depending on what you're trying to do there, that could be very big and it could bloat things potentially. So just be aware of that. But in this case, I can switch between the items using a slicer like you had asked for. So that's another approach. For the third approach, I'm actually going to go to the Power BI service. So let's go over there, Power BI, and then I've got my report that I published. So the third approach, you'll notice there's no slicer. And this is actually just I've just built out the visual in a normal way. But what I'm going to do is there's a little icon here that you may or may not have. So I had to go into Power BI Desktop under Options and enable it. You can enable this also in the service directly as well. But this is this feature called personalization of visuals. And so what I'm doing here is, as an end user, consumer of the report, I can click on that and I can just change the axis. Let's say to month. Or I can say, nope, you know what? I want quarter. And this approach, I didn't have to do anything as an author outside of just enable the personalization of the visuals. So I'm not creating this switch table. I'm not creating some funky DAX. I'm also not having to, work with maintaining multiple bookmarks and visuals and all of that. I just let the user decide what they want to do, and they can go ahead and do that. And it just works with my data model.
And our Avenger nerd dad is like, what? What is this ninja trick? This is probably one of the best kept secrets in the Power BI service. So for me, this is magic. This is a capability, and it's probably been in product for 6 months or so, and we're continuing to invest in it. So this is only going to get better over time. But a lot of people don't know about it. And without detracting from this specific question, I do want to call out that if you are working as a consultant or part of a center of excellence, or if you have an internal community at your organization around Power BI, this is a perfect topic for training sessions, both for authors on how to enable it and for end users or report consumers on how to use it, because this is basically a way that an author can build a thing that would normally solve a single problem and allow it to be customized in ways that can solve many problems for many users. This is magic. This is like the exciting thing today.
Yes. So there is, so Mark had a comment also, does the user selection stick around after refresh? And the answer there is yes. And so just real quick, I'll go back. One thing you'll notice is that when you interact with items in the Power BI service, you'll have this option here to, reset the filter so it maintains like your selection. And I believe that includes, so let's test this out. Not necessarily the refresh, but just to make sure that it does maintain. So right now I'm on month. Let's go and I'll change it to quarter because I know that wasn't the default. All right. And then if I go back out, and I'm just going to refresh the browser. Please work with personalization. And it did not work with personalization. So the answer there is it will not maintain that. I have a very sad face. So regardless of refresh, it's not maintained.
Yeah. I assume that this does stick with a bookmark. So if you had bookmarked the thing, I'm pretty sure that does. But I hope that Adam doesn't test it because I would hate to also be wrong about
adding a personal bookmark. Adding that bookmark. Let's go back out. Let's refresh the page. Come back in. Here we go. Living live. Living live. This is what we do. Let's go to bookmarks. Bookmark 1. Bam. That works. Oh, Matthew, you are a genius. You are
and
a
on
genius,
that day,
sir.
everyone knew that Matthew knew more than Adam about Power BI.
Actually, that's happened twice on this stream so far. That's the second time.
What was the other? I don't remember the other.
I don't remember the other one either. I just remember the feeling of like, oh, Matthew had it. I didn't, which is great. I love it. All right. Those are the two ones that I was going to highlight. So, okay, let's get to the queue here. So Christian asked the question, any additional details on hybrid tables? No. Past what was announced and whatnot. So check that out if you didn't see it from, I believe it was MBAS, Business Application Summit, where it was highlighted. So stay tuned. As the feature gets closer to being released, more details will come out. So keep your eye on that. It is an exciting feature, though. All right, Donald. Will Power Query in Azure Data Factory ever come out of beta? Matthew?
I don't want to say, I'm not going to try to answer the second part, but for the ongoing investments from the Power Query team, Power Query is this amazing capability that's shared across so many Microsoft products, Power BI, Excel, Data Factory, Dataverse, Power Apps, and others. And for each host environment, there's work that's being done both by the Power Query team and by, in this case, the Data Factory team. And typically for a long running preview like this, there is both usage and other exit criteria that they're looking at to see when will we be ready for a GA. And it comes down to both the completeness of features to actually solve the problems that customers need for it to be a compelling capability, as well as the other characteristics like performance and stability and so on and so forth that are important for a preview, but absolutely necessary for a GA capability. So I can't predict the future, but I can say that this is an area where both the Power Query team and the Data Factory team are continuing to invest. So it's not going away. It is going to keep getting better. Who knows when the beta label might be removed?
Yes. And to keep things in perspective, shape maps still have a beta label, and that's been there for who knows how long. So
what are shape maps?
Exactly. I actually like shape maps. It's one of the better map visuals, I think. All right, so just Matthew, I'm just going to call out the amazingness of the chat and them remembering things better than we do. Mark Beadle called out that API to export individual visuals was the other one. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Now I remember that Alex Powers is a bad person.
Yes. Yeah, Alex, Spanish Q&A, another one that's been there for a long time. Okay, moving on. Thomas, our friend from Sweden. What is the business scenario for direct query in data flows? Or did I get that wrong?
So you can do direct query against data flows. It's a function of the enhanced compute engine, which basically stands up columnar indexed SQL tables on top of your data flow entities. But as far as a business scenario is concerned, it's a technical feature. So do you want the data that's in your data flows to be part of an import model or part of a direct query or a composite model? It's really just another way to access that data. In an ideal world, you will be able to have an import model to take full advantage of the performance and vertipacitude of Power BI. Direct query exists for those situations where you can't have everything in import. It's the same thing with data flows. So you can direct query them, but should you?
Yes. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing.
Ooh. Now I'm thinking of he who can destroy a thing controls a thing.
Oh. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I say to the little ants outside every day.
Oh, I'll stop.
Okay. Johnny, what's your opinion on measure tables? I
usually just multiply the number of columns by the number of rows, and that's how I measure tables.
Yeah. Do you use a yardstick or a meter stick?
Ooh, I use a yardstick because I live in America where we measure things in Fahrenheit.
Yes. Excellent. So measure tables in general. So they're great from an end user or from an author perspective, especially folks that are going against a shared model. It's a way to organize things and to call things out. So from that sense, I like them. Just understand that there's always caveats to anything, right? And so it depends on your use case, what you're trying to get out of it, feature capabilities you're trying to use. So like, are we doing analyze in Excel? Are we doing Q&A? I'd have to go back and play with it to understand the current state of what works and what doesn't, because things change. But those are items to consider, and make sure, just test what you're doing and make sure they work, and that the experiences you're looking for your end users fit that given need. So the analyze in Excel and the Q&A capabilities are two off the top of my head I knew that did have problems, but
and as Mark says, measure twice, hit enter once. Ooh, and I don't want to detract from the questions, but Will Thompson from the Power BI desktop team said something recently about using alt select no, he said it on Twitter during the week.
All right.
But it was in response to one of Laura's questions, if I remember correctly. But basically, he talked about in the DAX editor in Power BI Desktop being able to alt-click so that you can type in multiple locations at once. And I was like, mind blown. Do the Patrick, what the French toast.
What the French toast?
That was me.
This is
and I had no
bananas.
idea what he was talking about.
Yes.
I don't remember where I was going with that, but when we're talking about DAXy things, yeah. Sorry,
awesome.
lost my train of thought.
Sorry, Patrick threw you off. Look at that. He's not
As-
even
as he
here and he's
does.
doing it. Yeah. All right. Mr. Ben, asking for a friend. You should put that in quotes. Best method for filtering report and generate 600 individual PDFs. Oh, Lord. Are there any plans for export to file API per hour limit to increase post preview? I'm not aware of any. Wow. I'm trying to think. So I understand like where Ben's coming from. So I'm trying to put that in perspective too in terms of the scenario. But in terms of the limit specifically, like I'm not aware of any changes. I don't know, Matthew, if you know of anything.
Yeah, so it's I'm not aware of any changes, but it's worth mentioning as well that this type of bulk operation is something that will remain a premium per capacity option, and if it were to increase, it would very likely, and keep in mind, I'm not talking about committed plans. I'm not speaking for anyone other than myself. But it would likely increase for the higher tiers of premium capacities, because if you're going to refresh a significant data set or a significant report, so refresh, filter, and then have some sort of export 600 times, presumably on a schedule, because this doesn't sound like a one-off operation.
Right.
That's like a brutal workload. That could, there's real costs involved and so on and so forth. Those costs will likely be tied to your premium capacity rather than.
Yeah, of note, like I said, I know where Ben's coming from. They do have premium capacity, so that's not an issue. So I saw a couple comments. Adam B. and then PA Beater made similar comments about, make it paginated. That doesn't solve the problem because the export to API is still limited. So yeah, that's a problem. Although, now that I say that, was there a difference in the limit on export to API versus paginated? I want it. Maybe it's not limited on the paginated side because of how it works internally. Thinking about the snapshot service.
I do not know. There's certainly a different different internal implementation, but how it would affect this scenario, I don't know.
So that's something to look at too, is verify that, right? So trust but verify. So the paginated may not have the limit. I'd have to verify that. Yep. So, all right. Good deal.
Yeah, and Thomas also calls out, we have that in production on premises in SQL Server reporting services.
Yeah. The on-prem absolutely would not have a limit there. So that's an option too, and you could link to that. All right. Interesting, Ben. Interesting. All right, Michael. All right, watching the clock. Michael, would it work to have a workspace with premium per user containing the data flows and a different workspace containing the reports with pro licensing model?
So short answer is no. The second answer is look at the premium per user FAQ, which Alex may put into chat, or you may need to Google it. DuckDuckGo it. but the basic response is that if you have a resource that is in a premium per user a premium per user workspace and is taking advantage of those premium features, that you need the consumers of that resource also using premium. So that FAQ goes into more depth about specific scenarios and answers specific questions. So look there, but the short answer is no, do not expect this to work.
Yes. I mean, no.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes, Alex, thank you for dropping that. All right, Michael. What is the best practice for looping M data flows? Example for a REST API, JSON with an offset. There's like a for each command from an M syntax perspective. There are examples out there, so I don't have them off the top of my head. Maybe Alex has something. So Alex, list generate. So contain your items within like a function, then use list generate to then loop. So there's tons of examples out there that I've seen for doing that. I just don't have them off the top of my head, and I was not pre-prepared. So, but yeah, list generate. Yeah. Oh, there we go. And Alex dropped an example.
Excellent. Yeah. And Gil is one of the best Power BI, Power Query bloggers out there today. So
yep.
Good.
Awesome. Bam. Good job, Alex. All right. So just personal commentary. So from a day job perspective, and we work with Alex as well from a day job perspective, and the "Hey Alex" command has blossomed outside of the Guy in a Cube chat. So other people have been latching on to that feature. We also used it on the SQL BI live stream, and so it's interesting to see that internally. Used during our day job as well as in other places as well. So Alex, you are in high demand, sir. I love it. Thomas, can you elaborate how a paginator report will become available from the Power BI service as introduced in MBAS? So I think this is specific to the paginator report visual for Power BI reports. So it's hard to comment anything past what was announced at MBAS because it's not publicly available yet. But the idea is that you can drop a visual on your canvas that will contain a paginator report. So think like building out a table. So if you wanted a table that can do certain things and then export that data from a paginator report, that's an option that is potentially available from that scenario. So I'm very excited to see that. And to be able to play with it and try to come up with scenarios. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Matthew.
You are definitely paginator reports.
You are definitely the paginator reports person.
It's a tool, right? So
it is a tool.
I am excited about it, but I will probably never use it, and I don't have anything to share other than that excitement that everybody else already has.
Yes. I am excited about it though. I think it solves an interesting customer challenge. And that's what I'm really excited about. All right, Fernando. I have a chart visual with drill down. When I'm in the lowest level, I can't cross filter the other visuals. I wonder why. I don't know that I've ever noticed that or tried it. Trying to think if I can do a quick repro of that. I don't know why that one wouldn't work. Obviously, in your case, you found that it doesn't, so that's interesting. Hang on a second. Come on, computer.
So is it possible that the underlying data model, that there's just nothing at the same grain in the other visuals? Would that, could that account for this?
Maybe. So it depends on the data, I guess. So let me see. Do I have even a good example of this? Don't know that I do. I don't off the top of my head, so I can't really play with it. So I'm curious about that. I may dig into that a little more and try and understand. So the answer to the question is I don't know. I'd have to play with it. The fact that you found it though is it's interesting. I definitely go off of Matthew's comment. Check your data, check the relationships, see if that's part of the problem. And so sometimes what I do there too is if we have a complex model, like I can't really change things there, I just spin up like a really quick, simple repro, like just even entering data into Power BI directly and not even going off of it. Doesn't have to be a lot of data either, but just set up a couple things that like this is a good star schema and the relationships are there for the levels, and then like see if that reproduces it also. Because if it doesn't and it just works, something's wrong with your report and or model. And so that's a way you can maybe verify. So. And
that the specific process that Adam just mentioned is actually an easily generalizable process. This is like the troubleshooting that I learned back when I was young, where if something works in one situation and doesn't work in another situation, you just explore from as many different perspectives as you can to see what's the difference between one and the other. You look at things like, did it used to work? Does it work in desktop but not in the service? You eliminate as many variables as you can, but that approach of not trying to solve the whole problem at once, but focusing on something smaller and more focused to understand the scope of the problem, and when it's introduced, it's vital. It's what will make you more productive.
Things I do there as well are like when they're like, oh, Power BI is the problem, like going through this gateway refresh. And I'm like, okay, well, let's get Power BI out of the picture, or let's get the gateway out of the picture and rule that in or out, and figure out where in the flow. So like I'm always just breaking things down to its most simplest component, excluding other factors just to see what that behavior is specifically. So.
Adam is always breaking things.
I am breaking things.
Down.
As evident from our last actual live stream. So, yes. Alrighty, folks, we are at time. Thank you so much for being with us on this Saturday. Glad to be back and rolling. And Matthew, thank you again for jumping in. Always a pleasure.
It is always my pleasure, and thank you for letting me bring Maggie along as well. So
Maggie
my
looks
fat
very
cat is
chill.
snoring.
Yes.
Yeah. If I may, let me see if I can get my microphone over to where she is. She is snoring gently. And of course, as soon as I get the microphone near her, she has stopped.
She's like, wait,
snoring.
what's going on there?
No,
like, what are you doing?
I don't know these people.
I also don't know what that big thing coming at me is. Oh, all right. And then Avenger Nerd Dad, thank you so much for upgrading to Cube Producer. Very much appreciated. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you next weekend. Have a great week.
Take care, everyone.
Oh, we're floating up like helium.